natural restaurant in Des Moines. Scott Thompson has come to have a cold beer and to meet his candidate more time for the cause. Amy Klobuchar's appearance is brief, but she strikes an optimistic tone.
We want to have record turnout, yes we do, but what we really want to do is win in November.
If she doesn't win here, Scott Thompson says it's a long run with more primaries to follow. However, winning Iowa can mean big momentum for a campaign, and that's why it's so exciting at this time of the year to be in Iowa.
So, Alexandra, healthcare, climate change, some of the issues you ticked off in that report just there, that's on one side of the equation. Donald Trump on the other side. Where do those two things come down for Democratic voters?
Well, honestly speaking, most people I talked to told me that it is very important for them to have a Democratic nominee who is able to beat Donald Trump after the traumatic election in 2016. So this is very important, and maybe also the reason for Joe Biden to be leading in national polls. But they also told me that kitchen table issues are also very important, as we mentioned, healthcare, student debt, education. Those are the issues, and we are really looking forward to the discussions that are going to take place in this high school tonight.
Alexander Van Namen, there live in Des Moines, Iowa for us. Thank you very much. And now to some of the other stories making news around the world. In the U.S. Senate, the impeachment case against President Donald Trump is wrapping up as both sides have given their closing arguments. Democrats have argued that Trump abused his power by pressuring Ukraine to investigate a political rival. Republicans and Trump's defense team have said the president's actions were legitimate or not impeachable. The Senate is expected to acquit Trump along party lines on Wednesday. 7 sick children plus their parents have been airlifted out of the war-torn Yemeni capital, Sana'a. It's the first so-called mercy flight organized by the United Nations. The Saudi-backed Yemeni government has been preventing commercial flights from departing from rebel-held Sana'a since 2016. China has opened a hospital built in just over a week to treat people infected with the coronavirus. The hospital is in Wuhan, the city of 11 million people, where the virus originated and then spread around the world. It has beds for up to 1,000 patients. China says the coronavirus has now killed more than 420 people and infected over 20,000 others.
After just 10 days of construction, the new hospital is operational. It was designed especially for the epidemic. Isolation wards make up half the facility, China says. It is located in Wuhan, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. A second hospital with more beds is due to be finished later this week. Right now, Wuhan is on lockdown. Fresh supplies are being delivered by the army. Thousands of reinforcements have been brought in to cope. But the country's in urgent need of surgical masks and medical equipment. China is accepting donations from other countries, and officials are confident the demand for supplies here will be met.
Last night we were able to double our production capacity. We have the raw materials to increase production and supply. Many companies are worried about overproduction, but we have assured them that the government will collect and store any surplus in supplies after the epidemic.
With the virus still spreading, demand for masks is unlikely to fall in the short term. But things could change if an effective vaccine is produced. There is now a global drive to develop one. Yet until those efforts bear fruit, life at the epicenter of this outbreak will remain restricted.
Correspondent Matthias Berlinger is in Beijing. He filed this report as the outbreak of coronavirus in China worsens.
The number of new infections and the number of deaths are climbing at a faster pace now. Most of these cases are still happening inside Hubei province and the city of Wuhan, that is at the epicenter of this epidemic, are climbing at the same pace. We do not know whether this means that the epidemic has been contained to these areas or whether we are still in the period where infections have already been happening but are not showing up yet due to the long incubation period. The government of Wuhan has taken drastic measures, one of them being that they have now ordered all the infected that cannot find beds in hospitals to go to designated isolation areas, and that they will enforce this with the help of the police. This gives us a hint that the situation inside Wuhan is dramatic.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan said the Turkish military has, quote, neutralized dozens of Syrian government troops. It's retaliation for an attack on Turkish forces in Syria. The deadly flare-up in war-torn Idlib is heightening tensions between Turkey and Russia, two of just several acts. In the long-running conflict.
Ankara is keen to show its business. More military vehicles continue to head towards Idlib today after the killing of Turkish soldiers in the province. The Turkish president said his country had been forced to retaliate against Syrian troops, and he warned Moscow not to stand in his way.
As a result of these airstrikes, 8 people, 5 of whom are soldiers and 3 civilians, were martyred. Of course, we said this cannot go on, and the necessary response was given. At the moment, we are doing what is necessary, both from the ground and from the air.
While the Turkish Defense Ministry says that Damascus had shelled their troops despite being aware of their movements, Moscow claims the Turkish units had failed to notify them. Monday's tit-for-tat shelling comes as the Syrian government and its Russian ally up their deadly bombardment of the last rebel-held territory in northwestern Syria. All too often, it's displaced civilians who are caught up in the fighting. Today, 9 people were killed in a reported Russian airstrike on their vehicle near the city of Aleppo. Turkey, which already hosts 3.6 million refugees from Syria, fears a new wave of migrants as a result of the new offensive.
According to the latest figures, unfortunately approximately 1 million people are marching to our borders. People, including children and elderly, are coming to our borders with whatever they can retrieve.
With pressure at the border growing, tensions between Ankara and Moscow over the rebel enclave seem set to escalate further.
The epic annual Femund sled dog race drew to a close on Monday, with a homegrown Norwegian talent taking the spoils. Robert Sorley and his team of Huskies were the first across the finish line after 4 days and hundreds of kilometers of mushing through freezing cold conditions in central Norway. The race has been running since 1990 and is a part of the Arctic World Series, which culminates in Alaska in early March. That's all for now from us. You're watching DW News from Berlin. More news at the top of the hour, but first, a feature on the science of avalanches in our film documentary. Don't forget, you can always get the latest news from DW.com or follow us on Twitter at DW News. I'm William Glucroft. Thanks for watching.
It's all happening. The Javele Africa Link. Your link to news from Africa and the world. Your link to exceptional stories and discussion.
DW's Africa Link program live from Bonn, Germany. For more news, visit our website dw.com/Africa.
Join us on Facebook at DW Africa.
breathtaking panoramic views, magical snow-covered peaks, and a magnetic pull for tourists. But there's a hidden danger here too: avalanches. Each year, around 100 people lose their lives in the mountains. It's hard to imagine the devastating consequences of a natural disaster like an avalanche if you've never seen one happen.
I was completely worried. My brother dug me out.
Everyone knows the statistics. What happens in the first 15 minutes determines whether you survive.
We expect climate change to affect the dynamic of avalanche in a fundamental way.
Right now, we think that in the short term, let's say 20 years, we might actually see a little bit more avalanches.
In just seconds, a peaceful snowy landscape can become a deadly catastrophe. Avalanches destroy everything in their path and leave behind silence. Across Europe, physicists, engineers, geologists, statisticians, historians, and dendrologists are studying these unique forces of nature to better understand and predict them. Mountain guides, rescue teams, and avalanche warning services all rely on their research to save lives, in the moment and in the future. Because we never know exactly